Hey, Zakiba, Amazon, where you get everything else. Amazon. Hello. Wait a minute. Hello. Nope. Hello. What's up, everybody? Genesis, Soul Alchemy, hey, Steven, Esoteric. Where the hell is Edward Bailey? Because he been on my ass for this goddamn Body and Soul movie. But tonight I'm gonna hook it up tonight. Tonight we're gonna go in on a couple of these flicks. We're gonna go in tonight. What is that? I'm sorry, guys. You know how it is. In the notebooks, in the pages and shit. Okay. All right. Black Panther, what's happening? Esoteric Bay, what's happening? Hurricane Baby Jesus. Wilk, what's happening? Salute to everybody. Shout out to everybody. I hope everybody's well. Everybody's in good health. Good spirits. All right. Let me run the script real quick. All right. Once again, welcome back to the Morning Star Show featuring your host, Super Sly 75. I want to give a shout out to executive producer, Cindy, aka Boss Ashby. You can always find us on. Oh, so the new site. We had some changes, some good changes. So the new site is, what is it? It is onthewakeupradio.com. So we're slowly making the changes, especially for those that want to get away from YouTube. So right now, to catch everything is onthewakeupradio.com. Also, we're on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, now iHeartRadio for the replays. The call-in number, it should be the Google number. I don't even know if I'm gonna post a number tonight. Whatever. You can find me on YouTube under Super Sly 75. The backup channel is called Heavily Flawed Individual. Merchandise is available through teespring.com/Super Sly 75. Also, please feel free to donate any amounts to go to the website. Airtime, it's a labor of love, but we still live in a costly world. If you appreciate the free content, please help us keep the message uncensored and free. You can always donate through PayPal at onthewakeupradio@gmail.com. So once again, wait a minute. Yes, once again, www.onthewakeupradio.com. That is the official site. Official. Hold up, give me one moment. This is some bullshit. Disregard everything y'all just saw. Disregard all that. That's not part of the show. All right. Okay. First movie we're gonna get into is Body and Soul. Body and Soul is another Leon Isaac Kennedy produced flick. It's kind of somewhat in the vein of Penitentiary, 1981. Okay. Super slow charge. Shut up, Cindy. We'll be professional. No. All right, so here we go. Body and Soul. Opening scene is an amateur boxing match in Chicago. There's two matchmakers assessing the fight. It's for the Chicago Golden Gloves title. Julie Winters, played by none other than Jane Kennedy. She presents Leon Johnson with an award, but he's too busy having sex in the bathroom with another woman. He's won 2 state divisions at 2 different weight classes. Leon does not want to turn pro. Okay, doesn't want to go pro. Leon hits on Julie. They share a dance. Leon's sister is back in the hospital. Kelly, she has sickle cell anemia. Leon has an argument with his mother about the quality of the hospital. Leon decides to fight professionally to help pay to cover her bills. Leon's mother wants him to stay in school to become a doctor. Leon tells Charles, his manager, the white guy, he's going pro. Leon goes to Muhammad Ali for training. Ali turns him down. The notable thing about Ali in this movie, this is where you see the signs of his Parkinson's starting to take effect. It's kind of sad because his words, he's slurring his words. There's a sparring scene. He's not as crisp. He's not moving as well. So this is the one movie you can see the actual beginning effects of Ali's fight with Parkinson's. It was kind of sad because you already knew what was going to, how he ended up, All right, so Leon has his first professional fight. He wins via KO, and he wins a bunch of fights. Julie interviews Leon for Sports Unlimited. Leon goes by the moniker The Lover because he wants to pack in more seats, thus increasing his profitability with the promoters. So he does like the ravishing Rick Rude, like he passes out roses to the women when he comes through the tunnel, right, in his ring entrance. Okay, this is his gimmick to draw in more fans to the fights. Leon gets knocked down in his fight, showboating in the ring, but still wins the fight. Leon and Julie have dinner. Julie tells Leon, "I don't judge a man on reputation or money, just be a man." Leon wins more fights. Leon proposes to Julie. The title belt governing body, the big man, right? The one that holds the belt in that particular class or that organization. They call him big man. He sends his handler, the brother, to go see what his weaknesses are. He's told to give him whatever he wants. Leon is brought to a fight party industry. He meets a bunch of women. Charles, the white guy, his manager, is given coke to sniff. A woman named Pussy Willow is in a room waiting for Leon. Her name is Pussy Willow. Dark-skinned sister. Like Sunshine in Harlem Nights. Pussy Willow smokes this woman. Okay, she smokes Sunshine. Oh my God, she smokes Sunshine. All right, so so then the handler introduces Charles to Freebase. Leon has his title shot against the St. Louis Assassin. During the match, in between the rounds, a woman comes up to the ring and gives him a gift and kisses him on the mouth. Then a BBW comes into the ring, gives her his panties, and gives him a kiss. Leon wins the title. Leon and Charlie meet to set up the fight between him and the Iceman. Now, the Iceman is like the big man's #1 guy. So what ends up happening is the big man will keep the champ around until they see somebody younger, and then he'll take on the young guy to beat the old champ. Okay, so during the negotiations with the big man, he tells Leon if he beats the champ, the promoter gets 50% of Leon off top. Charles is upset at the offer. Charles is upset that Leon is considering the offer. Leon fires Charles. Charles' drug habits have become a problem. Leon takes the promoter's offer. Leon says, we already have a contract. What's the sense in shaking hands? During the fight with the Iceman, Leon is knocked out of the ring. Leon's trainer tells Leon to hit the Iceman right above his eyes, twist the glove as he punches to cut him up, to puffy his eyes, and blind him and break his nose because Leon does not have the power to knock out the Iceman. Okay? During the fight, the Iceman's eyes begin to puff up. Leon is ahead on points. Going into the 13th round, Leon wins by TKO. Leon is then told there's no cure for sickle cell for his sister Kelly. Leon goes to his celebration party, and there's 3 women waiting in his room for him. The handler tells the promoter he's in the room, so they set this up on purpose. The promoter, the big man, gives Julie the keys because Julie shows up to the party looking for him, and gives him the keys to the room where Leon is with the women. So Julie uses the key to enter the room, and he sees Leon with the 3 women. Leon tells Julie it's just part of the business. Julie tells Leon his life has turned into a circus. Julie drives off and says he's changed. Julie says she feels sorry for him and that he became his own biggest fan. She tells him she wished he was double jointed so he can kiss his own ass. Julie calls Leon about Charles. He's high on drugs. Charles said he saw demons and monkeys like in Wizard of Oz and jumps out of a window. Charles tells Leon, we created monsters. Charles never used to drink or do drugs. Leon hasn't fought in a year since being the Iceman. The big man has a new fighter. The promoter tells him his reign is over and that you'll lose because you're smart. He says the contract he has on Leon is being put up for collateral and that he's betting everything against him. The big man gives Leon $200,000 to bet against himself and to get out of the fight game. Leon's mom is upset that he didn't do what she sacrificed for him. Leon says all his life he said, yes, mama, and that he is somebody, even though his mother believes he's not anybody. So there's this scene between him and his mother, and he finally lashes out at the mother, and he says, all my life, it's always been yes, mama. I do this, it's yes, mama. Yes, mama, yes, mama, yes, mama. So basically, he kind of blew up at her and had to remind her he's done everything for her at her behest, at her whim, and he had enough of it. He wants to do his own life, wants to do what he wants to do for him. Okay? So then the new fighter, Ricardo Santiago, the new guy, he beats up his sparring partners. The handler tells the promoter Leon doesn't have it anymore. We took away his heart. Now his mind is not focused. We took away his stamina, took away his team. Now he has no goals. He's finished. Just another fighter wanting to lose. Leon goes to Julie's house at 3 a.m. Leon tells Julie his head's not right and there's no way he can win this fight. Leon tells Julie he needs her and that he loves her. They later have sex, right? Make-up sex. The next morning, Leon tells Julie to put their money somewhere safe. The money that the big man gave him, $200K. Julie tells Leon she threw his money back at the promoter. Huh? Leon says, you don't know business. Julie tells him she borrowed against her car, the house, money in the bank, and bet on Leon to win the fight. Leon begins to train with Ali. Okay? Charles finally gets out of the mental hospital and joins Leon's training camp. Leon tells Julie he doesn't think he can beat Ricardo. And the promoter tells Leon to rethink his offer. And it's not too late. Leon tells him you figured out everybody's weaknesses, but nobody's figured out yours. Nobody's ever said no. Leon says he's going to win the fight, and he'll be looking for the big boys to come to take you out. Looking for the big boys to take you on a one-way trip when you can't cover your bets. The big man says you'll die. Leon says, you want to kill me? Fine. Everybody dies. It's not dying that's bad. It's how you do it. Okay? During the fight, he's thrown to the ground. Ricardo calls him a nigger. Leon is being manhandled and knocked down to the canvas for the second time. So he's basically getting his ass whooped throughout this fight. Ricardo is shoulder butting Leon in the corner. Ricardo is headbutting and punching Leon in the crotch. They roll around on the canvas. Frank tells Leon to outpoint and to finish each round pretty. Ricardo punches Leon in the back of the head against the ropes. Frank tells Leon he's lost too many rounds. He's got to knock him out. Leon begins his onslaught against Ricardo. Leon's mother is in the crowd cheering Leon on. Leon begins to get the best of Ricardo. Leon knocks Ricardo down, but he beats the count. Round 15. Leon knocks Ricardo out. The big boys walk the promoter and the handler outside because they can't cover the bets. So you see them being escorted outside. Leon's mom tells Leon she loves him and is proud of him. Everybody rushes the ring. That was Body and Soul. That is what Edward Bailey's been on my ass about. Now, I will get to Thenner and Demon Seed when I get to it. But it was a cool little flick. I caught the little messages, the contracts, and whatever and whatnot, how they purposely set him up to fail and took his support system around from him. So that was pretty slick. Okay, now let's get to the good stuff. The first movie of the good stuff. We're gonna do Prince of Darkness. No, do I want to do Prince of Darkness? No. I'm gonna edit this title, so y'all bear with me. I want to keep the satanic theme going. Okay. Here's what we got tonight. This is up to you guys. We got Queen of the Damned. I'm gonna do that last because it's Aaliyah's birthday week. Okay. I'm gonna do Queen of the Damned. That's for sure tonight. But I got here's your picks. We got Legend. We got Prince of Darkness, and we got Rosemary's Baby. So, I think I'm going to do Prince of Darkness first. I'm saving Queen of the Damned for the last because that is a huge backstory. It's a lot of background information that was not in the movie that you would have only had to know if you read the Lestat and the other sequel from the Anne Rice novels. It's a lot to cover with Queen of the Damned. That's why I'm saving for it last. Shut up, Cindy. I'm not doing all of it. I'm not going to shoot my load tonight. Crazy. So, let's do Prince of Darkness first. So we'll do Prince of Darkness, right? And then we'll do Rosemary's Baby, and then we'll end it with Queen of the Damned. So nice and satanic for all you Christians out there, okay? Good, nice devil movies, all right? So, Prince of Darkness. Okay. Just bear with me. A lot of notes. It's like I'm back in school again, I swear. Okay. 1987. Now, this was the second installment of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. So the first one was The Thing. Prince of Darkness was number 2. And the third trilogy was In the Mouth of Madness. So there was a theme with these particular 3 movies, all right? So now, let's get into it. It's a lot of things to cover. Opening scene, a priest dies on his bed holding a box. It's Father Carlton, okay? A nun discovers his dead body. Father Carlton belonged to the Brotherhood of Sleep. They communicated through dreams, all right? In Father Carlton's diary, it says, "The sleeper awakens. I have witnessed the stirring, felt the cold, hellish blast." The priest removed a key from the box, okay? Professor Howard speaks on time and nature and that human logic collapses at a subatomic level. There's a lot of themes in this particular movie, okay? The priest goes to the basement. The priest is played by Donald Pleasance. He has no name in this movie. It's just called the priest, okay? So the priest, aka Donald Pleasance, goes to the basement of the Brotherhood's monastery The priest reaches out. He reaches out to Professor Howard. Okay, Professor Howard is played by the old Asian dude that played the old Asian dude in Big Trouble in Little China with the little squinty eye. Okay, that's him. Okay. All right. Brian is watching a show on the Big Bang Theory, and the back of his TV, it begins to melt. The next day, Professor and the priest go to the monastery's basement and see the green liquid swirling in a container. They decipher an ancient text. The priest says the world began changing a month ago and that his power is growing. Walter and Kelly discuss observation and description. Brian, Walter, Kelly, Danforth are summoned by Professor Howard. The professor tells the students they'll be working for the archdiocese. The professor notices a homeless woman with ants on the side of her face, worshiping the sun. The priest tells the professor he lives in the sum of its parts. So the priest wants the professor to scientifically prove the book and to show it to the world. The professor says the outside world doesn't want to hear it. The priest says no prison can hold him now. Danforth and Brian spend the night together. Homeless people watch the students arrive at the monastery. There is a crescent moon and the sun at the same time. Okay. The students and other teams set up the lab sites. A student begins to translate the book. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you this thing which shall be unleashed. That's the first translation. The possessed homeless people begin to surround the monastery. Everybody heads down to the basement to observe the liquid. Further translations. Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abominations of the earth. That's the second translation. The students are using differential equations to translate the book. The windows are covered in worms. Next translation. And the prince of darkness was himself sealed, that old life called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. Right? There's an episode of Tom and Jerry playing on the TV when Tom goes to hell. You remember that episode? The dog is the hell. Tom falls into the cauldron. He's trying to get out, and the devil dog is taking his pitchfork and sticking him back in the cauldron. That episode is playing on the TV. Okay. One of the research students comes across a bird on a cross while leaving and is then attacked and stabbed in the chest with a bicycle frame by the homeless people. Brian questions Professor Birick about the liquid is becoming something. Professor Birick gives Brian another translation. I saw a star fall from heaven unto the bottomless pit, and he was cast out as water from flood. Carbon dating on the lid containing the liquid dates back to 7 million years. Researcher traces the roots of the container. It was buried in the Middle East by the father of Satan, a god who once walked the earth, but then banished to the dark side. The father buried his son inside the container. Christ came to warn us, but he was an extraterrestrial ancestry, but of a human-like race. So in this movie, they discover that Jesus was an extraterrestrial, human-like alien that came to warn the people of Earth about the impending rise of Satan. Okay? This is crazy, crazy movie. So then, downstairs, a female researcher becomes infected with the green substance. Back upstairs, they determined Christ was crazy, but his movement was becoming popular, so they killed him. But his disciples kept the secret until man could create a science sophisticated enough to prove what Christ had already knew. How Roman Catholics kept this a secret for 2,000 years is because a decision was made to characterize pure evil as a spiritual force. a force in the hearts of men. That way, man stayed the center of things, so we can live without truth and substance. Brian records activity from the container, kinetic emission. It can move other objects instantaneously across a distance without outside intervention. It's called psychokinesis. It's mind-directed energy. The professor tells Brian to not tell the others just yet. The infected researcher, Susan, she's a radiologist, breaks the neck of a coworker. Brian tells Danforth about the liquid. Professor Bierich says every particle has an antiparticle, a mirror image. He says the liquid's mind resides in the mirror image instead of in the universe. This force is the anti-God, here to bring darkness. The researcher Frank stays outside, then sees Susan and is then stabbed to death by a homeless woman. Another translation: be ye not deceived of his purpose, for one will be chosen. Okay? Oh, wait a minute. Who that? My bad. I'm trying to read that. Yo, I'm trying to read the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it on the backup channel. Thank you. Appreciate it. Walter receives a dream transmission about the future. Professor Bierich received the same dream transmission. It says our technology has now developed a transmitter strong enough to reach your consciousness state of awareness. The Asian translator lady is then infected by Susan. The priest tells Bierich the dream is a premonition. The dream evolves. The researchers whose neck was broken becomes infected of the green liquid. Kelly's bruise on her arm has turned into a raised crucifix. Kelly has been chosen. Lisa, the infected translator, is typing on the computer, I live, you will not be saved by the Holy Ghost, you will not be saved by the god plutonium, in fact, you will not be saved. Susan, Lisa, then infect another researcher. Everybody who sleeps in the church has the same dream or premonition as the Brotherhood did. The scientists from the future used tachyons to transmit the message to those from the year 1999. The priest tells everybody of the same premonition. Tachyon is a Greek word meaning swift one. It's a subatomic particle that travels faster than light. Now here's the crazy part. Anything traveling faster than the speed of light would appear to be going backwards in the future. A future scientist calculates the exact spot that the Earth would occupy in space in the past, giving them a trajectory speed. He then breaks a tachyon and sends a signal at that spot, transmitting video information. So that's how they're communicating from the future to them now. So when they all had that crazy dream premonition, it's from the future, all right? Tachyons, Watchmen, all right. Lisa and Susan move the container into Kelly's room. Wyndham, a researcher stabbed to death, stands outside the church to tell the survivors to pray for death as he's covered in insects, and then his body disintegrates. Okay. Now the other researcher, he's a brother. He stabs himself in the neck. He sees what's going on. He can't take it. He can't handle it. He stabs himself in the neck. Lisa and Susan move the container into Kelly's room as she's sleeping. Brian and Professor discover the church is surrounded by homeless zombies. Walter goes into Kelly's room to discover the ceiling is covered in the green liquid, pouring into Kelly's mouth and eyes. Dr. Leland is then infected by Lisa. Walter locks himself in a closet to escape Susan. Lomax, whose neck was broken, has been reanimated, and he's walking towards them. The survivors barricade themselves in a room. Dr. Lee wakes up infected. Walter sees that Kelly has been impregnated, but is still unconscious. Kelly's skin has decayed. If you remember this movie, her skin it's horribly burned, melted away in spots. Okay, the survivors attempt to tunnel Walter out of the closet because he's trapped in the closet. There's Kelly, Susan, and Lisa in one room trying to get to him, and the survivors on the other side of the room trying to break the walls to get him out. Okay. Lomax infects one of the survivors before being stabbed in the eye. Brian then takes out Dr. Levin. The survivors rescue Walter through a hole in the wall. Walter and the professor throw Lisa out of a window. Kelly finds a compact and looks into the mirror and says, "Father," and is then able to stick her fingers into the mirror portal, and then becomes upset and breaks the compact. Okay? Kelly stands in front of a mirror and says, "Father," as the mirror lights up. The priest finds an axe as Kelly reaches her hand into the portal. Brian then takes on Collier, the guy who stabbed himself in the neck. The priest chops off Kelly's arm and her head, but Kelly puts her head back on and regrows a new arm. Kelly then pins the priest against the wall with a dresser. Danforth is running and she sees this. So Kelly is reaching her hand into the portal to pull out the anti-god, right? So Danforth sees Brian fighting with somebody. She sees Kelly about to pull this thing out of a mirror, okay? I'm sorry, Danforth. So then as Kelly's pulling out, she's like, "Father, come to freedom." She sticks her hand in, and then as Kelly pulls the hand out, it's this huge big hand. I mean, the forearm is massive. So you can imagine what this thing would look like and how big it would if it came through the portal. Okay. So then Danforth runs down the hall while Kelly sticks her hand back in the portal and says, "Father, come to freedom." Then Danforth sees Brian fighting Collier, and as Kelly begins to pull forth the anti-god, as you see the image of the massive hand and forearm, Danforth then throws herself into Kelly, knocking all three back into the void as the priest throws the axe against the mirror, shattering the mirror, and on the other side of the image you can see Danforth trying to swim back through the portal. As the light goes out, it flickers and dims out. It's a horrifying scene. Just because you're like, oh my God, what if, could you imagine being on the other side of that thing trying to get out and the lights go out, okay? So then the priest then shatters the mirror with the axe as Danforth attempts to get back out, and the light flickers, then goes out, and all of the possessed minions drop dead, and the homeless people that wander away. Walter then escapes and runs away. The next morning, the priest tells the professor, "We stopped it." The priest tries to console Brian and says she died for us. The same dream message is playing, but the figure in the doorway is Danforth. So the same reoccurring dream. There's a rolling shot across the gate and the entrance of the church. So the opening scenes were, it was a black figure. Now that Danforth had crossed over, it's Danforth is the figure in the mirror. Brian wakes up to a disfigured Danforth in his dream. He wakes up again, and then he goes to the mirror and reaches out to touch the mirror. End scene. I cannot describe the tension in this movie. I didn't do it any justice. You would have to watch this movie. I remember watching it as a kid, and it terrified the shit out of me. I didn't get it. Now that I've watched it again, it makes so much sense. And like I said, the dread and the horror of watching Kelly pull the hand out through the portal, and so the story goes. Everyone speculates it's the Darkness from the Legend movie, which is why I kind of wanted to do those back to back. So if you remember the Legend movie, 1985, Tom Cruise, The Darkness, played by Tim Curry, excellent portrayal. If you ever thought of the devil or anything satanic, that was the image. Like, I don't know where they got that image from, but I think that's the perfect image for what you think anything is satanic. So that was Prince of Darkness. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this again as an adult. Okay, so now I'm still saving Queen of the Damned for the end. So what are we gonna do? What did I say? Nope. Legend. So let's just follow up with Legend. I just think it's a good way to tie in. Okay. I did not know this was a Ridley Scott film. Ridley Scott, Aliens. I didn't know this was his movie. 1985. Okay. So we have an opening narration from the Lord of Darkness. He says sunshine is his destroyer. Darkness summons the goblin Blix. There's a Star Wars reference in this movie. Okay. So Darkness says he feels a disturbance in the forest. A force he had mercifully forgotten. So if you remember that line from Star Wars, I think it was Episode 4 when Vader realized Luke and Obi-Wan were on the ship, and Vader's talking to somebody mid-sentence. He's like, disturbance, a force I haven't felt in so long, or whatever. He just walks off. Star Wars reference right there. Okay. Darkness wants Blix to bring him the horns from the 2 unicorns. Okay. And then we're introduced to Lily the princess. Lily is a princess, but she's a wild card. She does what she wants to do. Okay. A handsmaid tells Lily that magic is a wonderful thing. One day you'll find your own magic. We're introduced to Jack. Jack is played by Tom Cruise. Jack is the keeper or the guardian of the forest. Okay. Jack teaches Lily the ways of the forest. Jack then shows Lily the unicorns. Blix is following Jack and Lily. Okay. So then Lily, being the wild card, she runs out to the unicorns and wants to touch the unicorn against Jack's wishes. Okay. Because she's not supposed to interact with the animals like that anyway, because they're sacred animals. Okay. One of the unicorns allows Lily to touch it as Blix prepares a poison dart. Then Blix fires his dart and hits its mark. Jack tells Lily what she did was against the rules and that these are sacred creatures. Lily says she doesn't care, she just wanted to touch it. Blix is tracking down the unicorns. Lily discussed marriage to Jack. She throws her ring off a short cliff as Jack dives in to go get it. Blix finds the injured unicorn and dehorns it, seemingly killing it. Because we all thought once he chopped the horn off, we thought it was dead. So he has the horn. The weather goes from to summer to winter. By the time Jack comes up for air, looking for the ring in the pool or in the water, it's freezing. It's a blizzard. Okay. Lily runs back to the handsmaid home to find her handsmaid frozen to death and everything covered in snow and ice. Jack is looking for Lily, but is found by Thorn Gump and a fairy. So then Blix kidnaps Lily, takes her back to the castle, to Lord Darkness's castle. Thorn Gump asks Jack if he's seen anything strange, any strange spirits. Jack confesses to letting Lily touch the unicorns. Said he did it for love. Gump tells Jack you can't upset the balance of the universe and not expect any consequences. Gump then asks Jack a riddle. Jack answers the riddle correctly. Jack tracks down the unicorn's body being protected by its mate. Jack tells Gump they must retrieve the dead unicorn's horn. While tracking Lily and the goblins, they encounter Meg, the water witch. Meg wants to eat Jack. Jack then decapitates her. While sneaking into the living tree. The living tree is where all the creatures of the darkness would do their sacrifices. Okay? Jack, Gump, Bromtum, and Screwball are captured. Una, the fairy, while attempting to find the key to free Brompton, and Screwball tries to seduce Jack. So Una plays like she's Lily and tries to get Jack to kiss her, and he doesn't fall for it. She becomes upset because she likes Jack. All right. Back in the castle, Darkness pledges to his father that Lily is a distraction and he's smitten with her. Father tells Darkness because her soul is pure, he must woo her because her heart still remembers. Father tells Darkness to make her one of us. And Lily is running through the castle. The palace has a checkerboard floor. Now remember back in the early 80s and 90s, the the obvious signs were the checkerboard floor. All right, like you just couldn't get away from it. Oh, thank you, faces. Thanks, hon. I appreciate it. So yeah, a lot of these older movies, the checkerboard was your first clue. Okay. So then Lily becomes enchanted by the jewelry from darkness. There's a dancing black suit, a black dress, and it dances its way over to Lily. Then, upon command, the dress is now being worn by Lily because there's this dance, and the dress is like a living dress, and it seduces her, and they do a dance together. And then one cut scene, all of a sudden, then it's Lily dancing in the dress in the black. She's all goth out, black makeup, black lipstick, her hair's curled and like figure waves, black. It looked good for a gothy thing, you know? Okay. So Lily is decked out in all black. Darkness then steps through a mirror and reveals himself to Lily. So there's cut scenes where you see his hand come out. He's got these long black claws. His hoof steps out. And then he steps through. He's got these huge black horns. He's got these yellow piercing eyes. He's the most, like to this day, like when I think about evil, like if I thought about what the devil would look like, it would be that character. Like it to me personifies what I think the devil would look like, even though it's not the real thing, but it's still. So he steps through. He's just fucking huge. He's huge. And he's got this proper English accent. Here's this Tim Curry, all right. And then she's instantly frightened. So Darkness tells her she's wearing a bridal gown. He tells her she's his mate. Right? He tells her it was her sin that trapped the unicorn. Jack, Gump, and Una are locked behind the palace door. Darkness plans to kill the remaining female unicorn. Brompton and Screwball set up a reflective shields in the specific places leading from the outside down to the dungeon to the palace. So their plan is to use the sunlight. They gotta use shield angles to reflect the beam of sunlight from the top all the way through to the bottom into the palace. Okay, at geometry basically. All right. So then Brompton is and the second clue in this movie, Brompton is wearing a checkerboard scarf. Now, why in the hell is an elf in medieval time, in Middle Earth, right? Why is an elf during Middle Earth wearing a checkerboard scarf? Like, I was just like, really? But it's 1985. So, they had to throw it in there, all right? So then Darkness attempts to woo Lily with more opulence. Lily tells Darkness he's stolen her dreams away. Darkness says the dreams of youth are the regrets of maturity. Now, his accent is awesome. So you just have to hear him speak and how he talks to her in such a very commanding, but yet almost, it's respectful, but it's commanding at the same time. Their interaction. She's like a loose wild cannon, and he's like, okay, I know you're a child, and I could snap my fingers and destroy you, but I like you, so I'm gonna let you play a little bit. That type of banter between them. Okay, and like I said, his accent just makes it that much better. So Darkness says the dreams of youth are the regrets of maturity. Through dreams, he influenced mankind. He offers her his heart, soul, and love. Lily begins to feign interest in Darkness and angers him. Now this is where you see the real him come out, because he snaps and he throws the food off the table and he walks up on her and you're like, oh shit. And then she starts laughing at him. The whims of a woman. This is the perfect example to me of how women and men interact. The woman is like flighty and just like doesn't take anything serious. The guy's all serious and gruff, right? And she pisses him off and he gets mad and he walks up on her. It's not gonna do anything, but he walks up on her and she's just like, ha 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 ha. That's a woman for you. No diss, but I just like how they played it off in this particular scene between those two. All right, so then the unicorn. Oh, okay. Darkness says When the perfect void was corrupted by the light, there was a great wailing, and the brothers of the night all fled. The unicorn is being prepped to be killed. Gump tells Jack she is one of them and to kill her. Lily then strikes the chain, freeing the unicorn, while Jack fires an arrow into the neck of the darkness. Darkness charges Jack, while Gump continuously fires arrows at darkness. So imagine darkness charging, and the dude is just firing arrows, and arrows are just sticking in him, and it's not phasing him. So he charges Jack. Jack's against the wall. He lunges at Jack. The horns hit the wall, and the darkness is looking at him. There's this sword fight between the two, okay? So while they're sword fighting, Jack saves the slain unicorn's horn, then stabs darkness in the stomach with it. While Brompton angles the sunlight at the top of the castle to beam off the other shields throughout the dungeon into the palace, it strikes Darkness in the chest. Darkness then begs his father to protect him. Darkness, while being sucked back into the void, grabs the doorway and says, "What is light without dark? I am a part of you all. We are brothers eternal." Jack then severs Darkness's hand, and Darkness is thrown back into the void. Jack then goes back to the shallow cliff to retrieve the ring Lily threw over. Jack retrieves the ring and places it on Lily's finger, kisses, and breaks the spell she was under. The severed horns reattach to the unicorn. So we all thought it was dead in the beginning. It is not. So they reattach the horn, unicorn comes back to life, they run off and do what unicorns do. Lily awakens and says she's learned something about herself and that Jack is her prince. So they run off. And then the closing scene is the two unicorns, Gump, the fairy, and the elves all waving goodbye to Jack and Lily. And scene. That was legend. Okay? If you're over 40 and you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what to tell you. It's a classic, regardless. It's a classic movie. Now, let's see what else. Give me 1 minute. Race. Okay. This is what unicorns do. They do unicorn stuff. All right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna go into Queen of the Damned. Now, there's a lot of backstory to this, so please bear with me. There will be parts where I will have to give backstories to certain characters in this movie, because if you read the novels by Anne Rice, you know what I'm talking about. But if you watch this movie and never read any of the novels, you're going to be lost. And you're going to be like, that doesn't make sense. There's no continuity. And I'm here to fill in the blanks for you guys, okay? All right, so Queen of the Damned. Now, this is, I think Aaliyah's birthday was 2 days ago. Rest in peace to this woman. This woman didn't stand a chance. Let me get this out the way real quick. So, Aaliyah didn't stand a chance. If you remember, she was on Star Search. A lot of people forget Star Search was also like a Nickelodeon, like a Disney. It was a grooming site for children, just like the show now, Kids Got Talent, right? These are grooming sites for children. So a lot of people came through Star Search. Ed McMahon was the host. Old heads remember Star Search. Okay, I remember who's the fat girl? The TV show with Monique. Countess Vaughn came through Star Search. Now, I don't care about the sacrificing part of the girl. The parents sold her out. Her uncle and cousin, Barry and Jomo, sold her out. She didn't stand a chance. Now, the sad part is, after the plane crash, when they found her body was covered in snakes. Her body was found in like a shallow marsh, because, they crashed they're in the Bahamas, and they crashed not too far from a marsh, and everybody's bodies were covered in snakes. Yee. And then, as you notice, you notice Aaliyah's career, as she became more popular, her look became more darker. Okay, notice like all the pop stars when they're young, really bright, airy color schemes. As they progress and get older and turn into sex kittens, it gets darker. It gets more sexual, right? You see cat ears and shit like that. Okay, so if you go back and look at her career, you see when she went from bright and airy to kind of like gothy and dark. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. Now, like I said, bear with me. It's a lot to cover with Queen of the Damned, so just bear with me. It's a whole lot, and we're gonna go through all of it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There we go. Queen of the Damned. Queen of the Damned. Now, Akasha. Okay, not just the character, but the Akasha records are it means ether. It's Sanskrit for ether or sky. These are when they say the Akashic records is the living recordings of all thoughts and feelings and emotions of everything that humans have experienced. Okay, now there's claims that people can tap into these things and go into the old histories, the old human archives, and find out what you were thinking, who this would, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a living library for human thoughts and emotions. Okay, now that being said, now in this universe, Akasha was the first vampire in existence. She was called the Great Mother. She was born in Uruk, which used to be called, Uruk used to be called, it's called Iraq. Okay? So she was born in Iraq. She's possessed by the spirit of Amel. The spirit of Amel is what turned Akasha into a vampire. She was born 12,000 BC. Now, Amel is the essence of vampirism. Now, the backstory, there was Akasha and there was Enkill. Okay? Now, for those that understand, Enkill and Enlil were brothers. Now, the story for Enkill and Enlil was the bad brother, Enlil was the good brother. In those doctrines, if you went to hell, you went under Enkill, you had to go mine gold underground, and it was hot. That was hell. Enlil was the good brother. So if you went to heaven, you went to go hang out with Enlil. You guys all following me? Does it make sense? Has anyone ever heard these stories before? Okay, so now, Enkill, Akasha were kings and queens in Egypt. They were good people, right? But they wanted to clean up Egypt. I'm giving you backstory. I'm not even talking about the movie right now. I'm giving you backstory to kind of fill you guys in. So Akasha and Enkill banned cannibalism. They wanted to clean up a lot of the habits of Egypt. Cannibalism was one of them. So they forbade cannibalism. There's two witches. Okay, there's two witches, right? They're pretty popular. They're seers, right? Their rituals is cannibalism. So when a loved one dies, they consume the brain and heart. So what ended up happening was Akasha went to these witches. She wanted to get a vision. She didn't like what they had to say. So and then at one point they were caught doing what they do, one of their rituals. She locked them up, threw them in jail, right? Sent in an inquisitor. She asked him for another vision. Didn't work out. She had their eyes cut out, their tongue cut out. She had one of her stewards rape the twins in front of everybody. The one twin, Maharet, had a child named Miriam. As a revenge, the sisters sent the spirit of Amel to possess Akasha and Enkill. So them being the first vampires, they suffered for bloodlust. So they would constantly thirsty for blood. So they ended up killing a whole bunch of people. So Akasha went back to the sisters and said, look, we can't be killing everybody. To help us, the bloodlust. Help us clear up the bloodlust. She said they told her, for every progeny you have, it will lessen your taste for blood. So the more vampires you create, it will lessen your need for the bloodlust. Okay, just bear with me, y'all. So then, okay, Akasha's like, okay. So what does she do? In the end, she bound the sisters in concrete, a special concrete. She put them on boats, sailed one east, and one went west. One went to Africa, the other one went to Europe. So then they sought Amel and said, possess us, give us the power of vampirism, which he did. So then they ended up creating their own progeny. So what ended up happening is their progeny down the road came back for vengeance against Akasha and Enkyo. Okay, this is that universe. This is the universe we're in right now. Okay. Once again, you would have to have read some of those Anne Rice novels, and just kind of know the backstory of this particular universe that they set up. So once again, as I go into this, I will be filling in blanks of certain characters in this particular movie that you may not be privy to. Okay, that's a very brief backstory of Akasha and Enkyo in this movie. Wait. Okay, so then one more thing. The spirit of Amel comes from a family of vampires, spirits, and replimoids. Replimoids were created by bird-like creatures called the parents. They are immortal. Okay. All right. Woo, shit. That was just a prologue. All right. Let's get into it. All right. New Orleans. Narration by Lestat about the pros and cons of immortality. Lestat is awakened after a 100-year slumber by rock music. He crashes a band rehearsal, introduces himself, and appoints himself as the new band leader. The vampire Lestat becomes a huge success. Lestat, Interview with a Vampire. Brad Pitt, that movie too. That would help if you watch that particular movie as well. To kind of give you a backstory of Lestat. Lestat, like I said, Lestat has his own novel, and it's a huge fucking. I've not to this day have not gotten through that particular novel. It's a fucking huge novel. You know, Anne Rice, she writes her ass off. Her books are like this fucking thick. All right. Okay. Okay, Lestat breaks the vampire code of secrecy. He gives away vampire secrets in his song lyrics. Lestat invites two groupies back to his home in West Glastonbury. They begin to crawl around on the there's a checkerboard floor in his palace. Okay, he begins to climb on the walls and the ceiling, and then attacks and feeds on the two girls. Lestat calls out to a girl named Jessie. He's been calling out to her since the age of 6. Jessie was in the care of Mahomet, or Maharet. Maharet is one of the twin sisters from the prologue. Okay, now this Maharet. Let me break it down real quick for y'all. Just bear with me, because it helps to fill in this stuff in. Okay, so Maharet, she was part of the twins, the red-haired twin. She'd been raped. She had the kid. Do I even need to cover this part of it? I don't need to cover this part of it. Yeah, so in the backstory, they were performing cannibalistic funeral rites for their mother. The queen made a policy of stamping it out. They sent soldiers to the... Yeah. Okay, I don't need to go into it. All right. Okay. So Maharet she keeps the family vampire tree, and she also watches out for humans in her care. Jessie is a human that was in her care. All right. Maharet and her sister Makari were hereditary witches. Okay. Maharet had bore a child from Cayman named Miriam. All right, so you already know that. Maharet tells Jesse to be with her own kind. Jesse goes to Talamasca in London to do more research on Lestat. She suspects Lestat is leading everyone leading everyone to a vampire coven. So in his song lyrics, it's called the Admiral of Arms. She figures out Admiral Arms is a pub in England. It's a host for a vampire coven where he frequents. Jesse figures this out. So she's like like Hellboy, the society that just watches everything and observes. They watch all the spooky shit go down and they observe the shit. That's what she does. She's like a watcher. She belongs to a society of watchers that are privy to all this information. They know about vampires. So she's one of those, okay? But she falls in too deep. David, head of the Talamasca, David tells Jesse they know about Lestat. David shows Jesse old paintings of the vampire that turned Lestat. His name is Marius de Demond. No, Marius de Romano. Okay, now his backstory. We need to get into his backstory because he's important. He's very, very important. Marius is the keeper of the living statues of Akasha and Enkiel. Okay? Marius was a citizen of Rome, born in 30 BC. He was abducted by druids. He had learned all the druid ways. And then the god of the grove, who was the original keepers of the statue, became badly burned because someone put their statues in the sun to kill them, right? So then he learned the ways of the vampires. The god of the grove was revealed to be Tesh Kamen and Prince Lestat. He makes Marius a vampire. Marius escaped the druids, found Akasha and Enkiel in their inanimate state. He removes them from the keeper's clutches with Akasha's urging and consent. So even though she's a living statue, she can still communicate telepathically with all the vampires. All right. So he's in charge of keeping them safe while they're in their inanimate state. He is the one that found Lestat, turned him. So that's his backstory in this particular movie, in this universe. Okay? He has kids. He has his own coven. They do a coven. At one time, they're followers of Satan. There's a whole bunch of it's huge. A lot of shit. It's a lot of shit with Marius guy. Okay, so now, Lestat de Lioncourt is his full name. Marius tells Lestat his version of the origins of the vampire race of Akasha and Enkiel, who sits as statues in a shrine in Marius' island. Marius is later forced to send Lestat away after Lestat boldly drinks from Akasha. We'll get into that in this movie. All right. Okay. So now, that's Marius' backstory. Okay. Okay, back to the movie. Jesse reads from Lestat's journal. Lestat met Marius in 1788. He was taken to his island in the Mediterranean. Marius chose Lestat to learn the vampire ways and to help him navigate the pending future. Marius teaches Lestat the vampire's life is that of discretion. You must be dead to the world. Lestat discovered Akasha and Enkiel's living statues. Akasha calls out to Lestat and actually turns her hand over because she's sitting on the throne, hands on her lap. She moves her hand and turns her wrist open for him to drink from her. Marius ties Lestat up and begins to explain Akasha and Enkiel. Marius is upset that Akasha chose Lestat. Marius abandons Lestat. Jesse tracks down the vampire coven and sneaks in to find vampires feeding on humans. The vampires question where her host is. Lestat sees her. Jesse is cornered by 3 vampires, but Lestat rescues her. Lestat questions how much Jesse knows about him. He knows she's a Talamascan. Jesse tells David she met Lestat. David tells Jesse the other vamps are furious at Lestat and want to kill him. Marius visits Lestat after 200 years. Marius tells Lestat his music has awakened an old friend, referring to Akasha. Akasha has arisen. She drank Enkidu's blood. So there's a scene where her throne is empty, and you see Enkidu's neck has been ripped out, where she drank his blood. And she's on her way to find Lestat. Marius tells Lestat she's a god and he's no match for her. Akasha shows up at the Vampire Coven in England. The Coven tell Akasha they're going to dismember and bleed him dry, referencing Lestat. She's like, oh, really? Okay. So then Akasha then rips out a Coven member's heart and eats it. She then begins to kill every vampire in the Coven with little effort. Jessie arrives before Lestat's performance in LA. She sneaks in with another groupie into his penthouse, and he lets Jessie stay. Jessie returns Lestat's journal to him and wants to know what it's like to be a vampire. This is like Twilight before Twilight. The real pasty, milky white vampires. This is Twilight way before Twilight. Okay. Lestat finally Lestat finally understands the beauty of being human through Jessie. Jessie offers herself to Lestat, but he rebuffs, turning her away. He then takes her, and they find another vampire that's about to feed, but Lestat runs him off, and then he feeds on a female victim and asks Jessie, is this what you want? David tracks Jessie down in Death Valley, but briefly runs into Marius. The Vampire Covens are in the audience during Lestat's performance. He's kind of egging them on, and you can see them all in hoods throughout the audience. So the Talamascans are also in the audience looking for Jessie. The Coven fly out of the audience to attack Lestat. Marius joins the fight to help Lestat. So you got Lestat and Marius fighting off a bunch of vampires, and they're all just flying in. Okay. So then Akasha shows up. She blows the stage up. She shows up. She kills the remaining Coven members and reveals herself. She then flies off with Lestat. Akasha offers Lestat her companionship. She reveals she's the one that kept him alive. It's also said in the backstory that Akasha and Enkidu could not have intercourse. But it's implied that Akasha and Lestat did. They're in the bathtub scene with the roses. Plot hole. Back at the Mojave Desert, Jessie is reunited with Maharet. Maharet reveals her vampire family tree. Lestat discovers he's immune to sunlight and discovers the resort is full of dead bodies from Akasha. She killed a resort full of people. Akasha blood gives him the power of sunlight immunity. Okay? Alright, we got a caller. Caller, what's happening? I'm good, how are you?
Well, I will give you a super chat on Brooklyn Stuff.
It's all good.
Yeah, I had to push out some money to send you about 9 cases of price burn liquid mineral something. And I gave you the Ultraman strength woman. So therefore, even your wife tried to just cut ahead with the iron pan it was great.
I appreciate that.
It should be fine.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I got a story to tell you. My friend Toriano had some trouble with his ancestor Shango, and I consulted the Star Society Oracle. And I said a few choice in-car mantras to help heal the chakra. And Shango told Toriano to listen to what Kenshu has to say. And I asked Toriano, who is this Kenshu they're talking about? And he said, Edward, that one Kenshu is talking about is you. That is your ancestral name because eons ago, you first incarnated on this planet as Kenshu, the traveler.
Interesting.
So I was in the hospital a while back in '97, And all of a sudden, this intern turned his light off and asked me some questions. And I asked you, who are you? What are you doing here? And why have you turned the light off? He said, Edward, I've come a long way to instruct you about your path and what you have to do. So I just want to tell you, I've come from a far place away. You will not see me again. The Creator sent me to give you a token. This token is a double-tailed coin. And I had that coin ever since 1997. This is when I was 27 years old, before my 28th birthday. So I look at the quarter. It has an eagle on one side, an eagle on the other side. It has no date. In ancient times, when a certain deity wanted to give you a certain sigil or token of your destiny, they would give it to you through a coin, like receiving certain sigil coins for the temples of Hercules or Aphrodite or Athena. So I'm up here, chilling at dinner time. This white lady in glasses up there bothering me. She asked, Mr. Bailey, can you help me out with something? Can you just shake my hand for a moment? So I shook her hand for a moment and held her hand for 3 seconds. And all of a sudden, her arthritis was healed. So I did a study of what kinship was all about, and the Gods of the Egyptians by E.A. Wallace Fudge. And I have the book right in front of me. And I found out that Kinshu is the son of Amun and Mut, the third of the triad of Thebes. And then I did some further research, and that the Amun priesthood was the most powerful priesthood of all time. The other priesthood mentioned in the 1955 book by George M. James called Legacy. And George M. James was a professor at Arkansas A&M College. It is now known today as UAPB, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. And it's interesting to note that the lion is their mascot symbol. The lion is the sigil totem of Amun-Ra. And Sly says, I was born on August 15, 1969. Guess what my sign is?
The lion?
What is it? Yes. I've been roaring and putting down messed up crackers, niggas, and bitches ever since 1989. So when I mentioned certain sources to help YouTubers on their way, well, they're sort of lost, like Taz, the greatest great ape of all time. He seemed to have a certain emotional sense in arguing with Ramil on the panel today. So I said, Ramil, he's lacking in potassium. Potassium helps you calm down a bit. So I tell you what, let me send him a case of white green grapes and 2 cases of bananas, which are rich in potassium. That should help Taz, the greatest great ape of all time, calm down. So I'm up there dealing with these YouTubers, and they think that just because they've read 2 or 3 books, they're all of a sudden scholars. But they're still on the retarded remedial tangent because they can't even get the metaphors and words right. And you know what? I asked a certain YouTuber, have you heard of the philosophies of the teens of Marcus Garvey? Because he was the one that originated the red, black, and green of the pro-black movement back in the 1900s. Because he came to NAACP, he was going to ask him, what the black folks at? All I see is these beige babies. And you look at the Black Panthers, the Black Panther Party of the Defense in the 60s, you come in there with some biracial mongrel babies, they're going to tell you, you're in the wrong place. You need to go and skedaddle. And now look at Irene Yvette's foolish bitch ass.
Oh,
got three
Oh.
Buffalo babies in the chat in O'Shea.
Yeah,
And she has the nerve to lecture about black.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Black is her is the foreign word.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
The nerve of this bitch.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear
Man,
you.
she should be a side bitch with this white folks.
Ed, I hear you.
I'm sorry.
And I hear you, brother. I feel you. We are in.
I'm sorry, man, but the fury of them aroused the dancing. And me as Konshu, Kenshu never hate her. I'll come to feed people the seeds of evolution.
And
now, I do recommend certain YouTubers to check out this album called Dark Sunlighters featuring Brother Jay. Called The Seeds of Evolution, because Brother Jay used to be a member of the X-Clan.
I remember.
And he's known as a verbalist. And, you know, his teacher said, to those who try to interfere in the path of one who is on his way to become the master, I say to you and Noah, peace. Now, I'm up there on my journey, and I've been initiated in the Ocala Nations and the Tribal Incorporated back in October the 5th, 1996. And I have made United States history as being the first all-neck black Native American to be initiated. I'm the only black person there. Now, when I received my medicine shield, it was the end totem of the horse, the right totem of the turtle, which is my warrior totem, my warrior energy being earth. And I got the totem of the west. Well, I got the within totem of the horse, and the southern totem of the beaver, and the northern totem of the whale, which is the record keeper of Atlantis of the Myriad. I got the eastern totem with the hawk, which is Heru, looking toward the east. And I got the left totem called the lynx, which is the keeper of the secret. Gotcha.
And no, Ed, not to cut you off.
Lynxes in Arkansas.
No, all you said was real shit. And I'm with you. We are in alignment.
That was also my first experience with the occult, because when I got initiated to the Native American circle, I couldn't bring no books or nothing. And I had to be in the sweat lodge for 3 hours with the elders. I saw 2 elders come in with long white hair, and high cheekbones. Now, I had to be in there for 3 hours with the 5 rocks of the sweetgrass. If I would have walked out of there, they would never talk to me again.
Right.
And I found out that my Native American name is Seven Moon Epic Peaceful Warrior. Peaceful Warrior is my medicine name.
That's what's up.
Native American tradition means magical power and magical right.
Gotcha. Got it.
So I look at the Seven Moons Epic, and the 7 refers to the Pleiades. And I'm up there asking my teacher, Grandmother Selma, and asked my other teacher, Red Wolf Shadow Warrior, what does the 7 mean? I said, well, Edward, it means 7 Pleiades.
Hey, Ed, let me.
Genetics is that the God.
Right. No, I'm with you. Let me stop you there, brother, because I got some other calls on the line as well that want to get on, if you don't mind. And I appreciate.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Give me a holler back at 501-247-0087.
I got you.
I'll just like you first.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right. Peace out, Slide.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ed, for the call. Calls are always appreciated. I thoroughly enjoy the feedback from everybody. This is our thing together, okay? It's not about me. It's about all of us, okay? Okay. All right, let's get back to Queen of the Dam. Oh, I didn't know that Anne Rice was from New Orleans. Thank you for that information that was sent to me. And an Anne Rice quote, she says, "The earth is beautiful, yet it still belongs to the dead." Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's continue with the. Okay, so with the breakdown. So yes, Akasha kills everybody at the resort. Wait. Okay. Lestat questions why she killed them all. Akasha says they believed in nothing and now they are nothing. Marius and Maharet and the others plan to kill Akasha to save the vampire family from destruction. Akasha shows up. Akasha says humans are animals and does not want to coexist with them. Lestat is introduced as Akasha's new king and tells Lestat to kill Jesse as proof of his love for Akasha. Now he goes over there and bites her, seemingly killing her, right? Then the family tree begins to drip blood on the wall. Lestat demands his crown from Akasha. Lestat begins to feed off Akasha. She gives him, her arm to feed. And then he begins to overfeed. And she's like, enough, stop, enough. And then the other vampires decide to attack her. That's their opening. Because as he's feeding on her arm, he looks at the other vampires like, okay, y'all can do this now. So they all jump her pretty much. She kills about 2 of them. And then her powers are beginning to fade because they're all starting to feed off of her, right? So Lestat begins to drink her dry, but Maharet stops him. So in the backstory is whoever drinks the last drop of blood from Akasha becomes the new Queen of the Damned. She becomes a new living statue. So Akasha then turns into a blackened statue and then dissipates. Maharet then becomes the new living statue. Lestat revives Jesse. Lestat and Jesse later go visit David. Lestat gives David his journal. Jesse says her final goodbye to David because she's officially a vampire now. Her and Lestat are a couple, and they fly off. Marius then comes back to visit David. End scene. Okay? So that was Queen of the Damned, pretty much broken down. There's 2 scenes of the checkerboard floor in Lestat's home in West Glastonbury. So I think I pretty much covered everything with this particular movie and backstory. If someone broke it down better than me, I'd like to see them try. So I'm not going to end it there. We're going to do one more. We're going to do Rosemary's Baby. I just finished watching this thing last night. Roman Polanski. You know Roman Polanski, the guy that fled to Sweden because he's, like little girls and still hasn't been brought to justice. And this is who Nicki Minaj channels. Because someone had asked me, well, how can you channel somebody that's alive? They don't have to be dead to channel somebody. She's always channeling Roman Polanski, that side of him. You don't have to be dead for someone to channel you or to channel someone, okay? They can be alive, right? All right, so 1968. This is my first time watching this movie all the way through. Literally, I watched this thing all the way through for the first time last night. I know, right? So, this movie is crazy as fuck. So let's get into it, shall we? Mia Farrow, of course, Woody Allen's ex, right? Okay, let's get into it. Rosemary and her husband, Guy, move into a New York apartment. The former tenant died. Her belongings are still there. Rosemary comes across some of her notes. It reads, I can no longer associate myself. There's a high boy blocking a closet door. A high boy is like a double-chested, it's like a really big dresser, right? There's one called a fat boy, and there's one called a high boy. All right, the high boy is really tall. It's a really tall dresser, okay? There's a high boy blocking a closet door. Hutch is trying to talk them out of taking the apartment. He tells them the Trench sisters were Victorian women that cooked and ate several children and their niece. Adrian Marcato practiced witchcraft, says he conjured up the living devil. The tenants believed him and nearly killed him in the lobby of the hotel. The apartment, I'm sorry, the apartment complex called the Bramfords. The Bramford apartment complex. Hutch says this building has a high incident of unpleasant happenings. In 1959, a dead infant was found wrapped in newspaper in the basement. This is their new home. Guy and Rosemary are moving in. Later on that night, they have sex in their new apartment. Days go by as they renovate the new apartment. Rosemary meets a tenant by the name of Terry Genefino. A bottle breaks mysteriously behind them in the basement. Later that night, Guy and Rosemary hear chanting from the next door neighbors. The next night after, Terry is found dead on the sidewalk, apparently from a fall out of the apartment. Mr. Castavets says he knew it would happen because she was depressed 3 weeks prior. Terry left a suicide letter. Next day, Rosemary is visited by Mrs. Castavets. They have dinner with the Castavets. Mr. Castavets talks the hypocrisy of organized religion. Rosemary notices that the Castavets took their pictures down. The next day, Mrs. Castavets brings her friend Laura Louse over, and they give Rosemary a necklace as a gift. This necklace is the same necklace that Terry was wearing 2 nights prior. This necklace contains, it's called tennis root. Now, for this movie, it's a fake root. It's not a real thing. But in this particular backstory for this universe, it's a root used for witchcraft. Okay. Guy again gets a part in a movie when the original lead goes blind. So Guy's like a struggling actor. He gets his big break, but the guy before him that had the original part goes blind. So that's how Guy got his break. Rosemary tells Hutch about Terry's suicide. Guy wants to have a baby. Mrs. Castavets brings over pudding. And when eating the pudding, Rosemary says it has a chalky aftertaste. Guy says he doesn't taste anything. Later on that night, Rosemary falls ill and passes out. Guy disrobes Rosemary and has sex with her while she's passed out. Rosemary has visions of being on a yacht and seeing the Sistine Chapel. She lays on the bed naked in front of cult members that are all naked. The Castavets are there as well. Mrs. Castavets says she sees nothing. She ate the mouse. She can't hear. She's like dead. Her legs are then tied down, and a demonic figure then scratches her body and has sex with her. She looks into the eyes of the demon. She then kisses the Pope's ring, then is awakened by Guy the next morning. Guy tells her she passed out and admits to sleeping with her while she was passed out because he didn't want to miss the conception date. Rose says she dreamed she was raped by something inhuman. All right, later on, Rosemary is confirmed pregnant. Her due date is June 28th. Guy tells the Castavets they recommend an OBGYN by the name of Abe Saperstein. He delivers all the society babies. Rose puts on the necklace given to her by Mrs. Castavets. Dr. Sapien tells Rose to take vitamin shakes given to her by Mrs. Castavets. Rose cuts her hair. Vidal says soon. Okay. Rose goes to visit Hutch. Hutch says she looks terrible. He says you're supposed to gain weight, not lose weight. Mr. Castavets then shows up to visit Rose and meets Hutch. Rosemary notices that Mr. Castavets, has pierced ears. Hutch looks at Rose's necklace and says it looks like a fungus or a mold and not a root. Hutch does research and wants to meet with Rose the next day. Rose is looking very gaunt. She goes to meet Hutch. Hutch never shows up. Rose calls his apartment and leaves and learns he's in a coma from Grace. All of a sudden, Rose runs into Mrs. Castevet's. The new year rolls around, and Rose eats pan-seared steaks and raw meats and begins to pour out Mrs. Castevet's vitamin shakes. Rose and Guy have a party amongst their peers. No Castevets, no Saperstein, no Laura Louse. Rose begins to break down and cry. She's in constant pain since November. Rose tells Guy she's going back to Dr. Hill and not Saperstein. Guy yells at Rose and calls her friends bitches. Rose wants to get a second opinion. Rose says then the pain suddenly stopped and she can feel the baby moving. Literally, in this conversation, they're yelling at each other, and all of a sudden the pain stops. And she sits down on the chair. She's like, I can feel it moving. Okay? Grace calls to tell Rose that Hutch is dead. Grace meets Rose at Hutch's funeral and tells Rose the book he was researching for her was an anagram. The book arrives in the mail for Rose. It's called All of Them Witches. Tannish root is called the devil's fungus. Adrian Marcato is in the book. He was attacked outside the apartment, not in the lobby. Rose discovers the anagram for all them witches is Roman Castevet's. Mr. Castevet is the son of Adrian Marcato. Rose shows Guy what she discovered. Rose tells Guy they were covens. They use baby's blood because it's the most powerful. Rose wants to move out of the apartment. Guy takes the book from her. Rose tells Saperstein her discoveries. Saperstein tells Rose Roman is dying. The Castevets leave for a trip overseas. Rose is looking for her book. He tells her he put it in the garbage. The next day, on her way to the library, Rose discards her necklace into a sewer drain. Rose picks up a book on witchcraft, and it reads, many people during that time died supposedly natural deaths. The united mental force of the whole coven could blind, deafen, paralyze, and kill chosen victims. The use of a united mental force is called a coven. Donald Baumgart was the guy that originally had the part in front of Guy. Donald Baumgart went blind. Okay? So then, some cults believed a personal possession of the victim is necessary. Now, during their initial meeting with Hutch and Mr. Castevet's, before Hutch left her apartment, he couldn't find his glove. Rose calls Donald Baumgart and apologizes for his condition. She asks him, does he remember missing anything? He says Guy traded ties with Donald. Dun dun dun. Rose goes to see Saperstein. She picks up a Time magazine, and on the cover is God Dead? That's the name of the article on the cover. The nurse says she smells different from her old scent. Rose says it was tannish root. The nurse mentions Saperstein has that same smell. Rose then leaves his office to call Dr. Hill and leaves a message for him. Dr. Hill returns her call. She tells him there's a plot against her and her baby and agrees to see her later on at his office. Rose explains her theory to Dr. Hill and gives him the witchcraft book as proof. Dr. Hill knows of Dr. Saperstein. Dr. Hill makes arrangements to send her to Mount Sinai. While resting in his office, she has visions of her holding her baby. Then she's awakened. Dr. Hill lets in Saperstein and Guy. They threaten her with going to an insane asylum if she doesn't leave with her. On their way to the apartment, Rose drops her purse, then runs to an elevator. She then locks him out of the apartment. Rose then calls Elise, but she is out to the movies. The coven sneaks in through the partition and gives Rose a sedative while she's being restrained. She then goes into labor. And the phone rings. Guy answers the phone and says she'll call her back. Rose then blacks out and awakens to Guy looking at her. They have a boy. Guy has a very sinister looking look on his face. Rose awakens after a nap and wants to see her baby. Saperstein and Guy say the baby died because it was in the wrong position. Rose becomes irate and says, "You're lying. You took it. You witches." The next day, Rose awakens and Guy tells Rose she had prepartum issues. Rose asks to see Guy's left shoulder. She finds no mark. Rose then hears a baby crying in the Castavet's apartment. She's forced to pump breast milk and then stops taking the pills. Rose tells Guy she heard a baby crying. Rose then grabs a steak knife, then enters through the closet secret compartment that was initially being blocked by the high boy in the very beginning of the movie. She enters the Castavet's apartment and sees various paintings. Then walks in on all the Coven members, including the Castavets, Guy, and Saperstein. There's a painting of Adrian Marcato above the fireplace. Rosemary then looks at the baby in horror and asks, "What have you done to its eyes?" Roman says, "He has his father's eyes." Rose says, "Guy's eyes are normal. What have you done to him, you maniacs?" Roman says, "Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son with a mortal woman." They all begin to chant, "Hail Satan." Satan is his father, and his name is Adrian. He shall overthrow the mighty and lay waste their temples. He shall redeem the despised and wreak vengeance in the name of the burned and tortured. Hail Adrian. Mrs. Castavet says, "Out of all the women in the world, he chose you. He arranged things because he wanted you to be the mother of his only living son. His power is stronger and stronger. His might shall last longer and longer." Rosemary says, "No, it can't be," then has a flashback to the night she passed out and remembers what she thought was a dream of the inhuman that raped her. God is dead. Satan lives. The year is won. The year is won, and the God is done. Roman says, "Why don't you help us out? Be a real mother to Adrian. You don't have to join if you don't want to. But be a mother to your baby." So then Minnie and Lara Louise, he says Minnie and Lara Louise are too old. It's not right. Friends come by to see the baby. Guy says they promised she wouldn't be hurt. They're getting so much in return. Rose spits in Guy's face. The baby is crying. Minnie is trying to console the baby. Rosemary tells Lara she's rocking him too fast. That's why he's crying. Roman tells her to rock him. Aren't you his mother? Rosemary begins to rock the baby while everyone is happily watching as some Asian guy takes pictures. And then Rose has a smile on her face. What the fuck? What the hell was that? Oh my god. Roman Polanski is a... Wow. Yeah, that was actually my first time watching this movie all the way through. Holy shit. Rosemary's Baby, y'all. So I believe there was a sequel some years later, but it flopped pretty badly. No one really mentions it at all. Yikes. So yeah, those are my movie breakdowns for tonight, guys. Yeah. Once again, I starting tomorrow. I gotta get back on it. I will be checking out Mortal on Netflix. I'm hearing good things about that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If not any questions, once again, I thank you guys for hanging out. Oh, also subscribe to On the Wake Up YouTube's channel. Get us to 1,000 subs. Also, on the wakeupradio.com is live and official. Well, I mean, it's up and running, the website. So for all the past episodes, shows you may have missed from all the different hosts, on the wakeupradio.com is where it's at. Also, the Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and everything as well. So, yeah. So God forbid if this channel ever goes away, there's I'm somewhere. All right. So with that being said, if this channel ever goes away, I'm somewhere. All right. Feedback. So, with that being feedback. Said, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. So, like I said, thank you for everybody's super chat, pureness. I think Capachata did one. All you maniacs in the chats on both streams, thank you. We'll do this again real soon. There's boss. Yeah, Cash Apps, whatever donations if you feel like it, whatever the case may be. But yeah, definitely go sub to the On the Wake Up Radio YouTube channel. So yeah, Snow Idmore, you're late. I've already broke down The Witcher. You're kind of late, bro. You can catch it on the replays. I went through every goddamn episode of The Witcher. I mean, I know I'd be late on shit, but I ain't that late, bruh. Yeah, Teku, I can put Omen on the list. I'm not gonna go through all of them. I think the first one is probably the most important one. So I will do the Omen eventually. So, yeah. I just got off the phone. How you saying bye? Yo, Cindy, motherfucker, I've been on this motherfucker for an hour and 42 minutes. An hour and 42 minutes. Running my mouth. No breaks. All gas. Okay? I haven't had a sip of water. Okay? Damn. Y'all have a good night. Peace.